In this video, I'm going to show how you can create really detailed PDFs in your Bubble app. You'll see here in my editor, I've created the outline of a report. It has a bunch of images, some text, some charts, some repeating groups. And when I click this Create PDF button from a completely different page of my Bubble app, I'm going to create that PDF, I'm going to send it to my user, and they're going to be able to download it. When we open it up, we see we get a really nicely formatted PDF with clean page breaks, page numbers, images, and repeating group data coming through. So I'm going to show you all the tips and tricks you need to know to create PDFs just like this. We're going to be going through a lot in this tutorial, so I just made a quick checklist of what's going to be covered. I'm going to put timestamps in this video as well, so if you'd like, you can fast forward to the relevant section. Now, throughout this tutorial, we're going to be using DocuPotion. So we're going to start off by looking at how you can install that and get the plugin working. We're then going to build up from creating a really simple one-page PDF to a much more complex one that has repeating group data, dynamic data, data specific to that user, page numbers, and all that kind of stuff. But let's get started by registering for DocuPotion. So DocuPotion is an app that I've built specifically for creating PDFs in Bubble. You can sign up for an account on pdfpotion.com. So I'm just going to create a brand new account here now. But once you've registered, you're going to need to go to your Bubble app and go to plugins, and then you're going to want to install the DocuPotion plugin. You can find this by going to add plugins, and then you're going to need to add your access token. So you can see here I've added it already. I'm going to change this access token after this video. But if you want your own access token, all you need to do is go back to your DocuPotion dashboard, go to my account, and then click on generate access token. You can see by default, you're going to be on the free plan and get 50 PDFs per month, and then you can subscribe to other plans if you want access to more PDFs. So now that we've DocuPotion installed, we've registered for an account, we've added our access token, let's start by creating a simple PDF of a cover page. And what I'm going to be using for inspiration throughout this video is this house price report, which is about the Irish property market. So we're going to create a kind of property market analysis report, and the idea is this is going to be targeted for like estate agents who might sign up for your app and they want to get the latest report. And you can see here they have a super simple cover page that's basically a bunch of text overlaid on an image. So that's what we're going to build out first. We're going to create a PDF of this cover page just to get up and running with DocuPotion. Now, a really important step in creating PDFs is the environment or the page in which you're going to create them on. And the beauty of DocuPotion is you don't need to give your users access to this page. It's almost a hidden page in your application that's only going to be used for building the PDFs that the users will then generate. So I'm going to go to add a new page, and I'm going to call this property report. And I'm not going to clone it from anything. And then straight away, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to layout. I'm going to change it to column, and I'm going to set the default builder width to be equal to 794 pixels. Now, the reason I'm doing that is because that is the width of an A4 size PDF that DocuPotion generates. And I found that the easiest way to generate PDFs that perfectly match what you're seeing on screen is to set the same dimensions. For now, I'm going to set the min height of my builder just to be 5,000 pixels so I have enough space, but we are going to change that later on. And then I'm going to go about building my PDF. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop in a group for the cover page. So I'll put this in here. We're going to call this group cover page. And we're going to give it a fixed width. And the fixed width is going to be equal to 794 pixels. And we're also going to give it a fixed height. And the fixed height is going to be 1122 pixels. Now again, the reason I'm picking that specific height is because that is the height of a single page in a PDF. I will say, we'll come on to it later on, but if you have content that overlaps from one page onto another, you're not going to want to set a fixed height. You will set a fixed width, but you obviously don't want to set the fixed height because then the content will overflow, it'll look messy, but we'll come on to that later on. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to set an image background on this group. So I'm going to attach the default style. I'm going to set the background style to be image, and then I'm going to upload an image that I've just created already. Okay, so that image is uploaded. I will say that I did make sure that these image dimensions match pretty closely the size of the PDF, just so it's nicely formatted. So let's preview that. And you can see here we have our cover page and nothing else at the moment. So let's just put some text on this. And maybe first we'll put some padding on the left, on the right, on the top and on the bottom. And then we're going to grab a text element and we're going to drop it in here. And we're just going to call this Q1 property market analysis. We'll set this heading here to be H3 maybe, but we will make this white just so it kind of pops out a bit better. And then we'll put it right aligned and we'll just take away that min height there. And that should work nicely. We might even make it a bit bigger. Let's go with 48 overall. Too big, change my mind, 32 will be fine. Okay, so let's now generate a really simple PDF that's just this page. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to go to wherever we want the user to generate the PDF from, which in my case is going to be the index page, but you might have a specific dashboard or you might have somewhere else in your Bubble app from where the user will generate the PDF. And when the user clicks the Generate PDF button, I want them to create a PDF of that one page and download it in their browser. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my database and I've already created this data type. It's called report. It's a really simple data type. It just has one custom field and that's link, which is a type of text. You may have a more custom data type, but this is just for demonstration purposes. So I'm just going to leave it as report. So when the user clicks the create PDF button here, what we're going to do is we're going to add a workflow. And the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to create a new thing. The new thing is going to be a report and we're going to leave it blank. There's only one field in it, which is the link, and DocuPotion is actually going to send that back to us later on. So we're going to leave that for now. Then we're going to go to the settings tab of our Bubble editor. We're going to go to API and we're going to make sure that we've enabled Workflow API and backend workflows. Once you tick this box, what you're going to see is that under the drop down up here, we have a new area called backend workflows. And DocuPotion is really best used in backend workflows. And we're going to need to set up two separate backend workflows here. The first one, which we can create by clicking on new API workflow, is going to be called create PDF. We're going to expose this as a public API workflow and we can run it with authentication. We can leave this box here about privacy rules unticked. And then really importantly, we need to add a parameter here. And the parameter we're going to add is going to be called PDF ID. And this is going to represent the unique ID of the PDF that has been created on the front end, on the index page in our case. So let's just show how we can pass through the PDF ID to the backend that we can then use in our create PDF action. So we go back to index and when create PDF is clicked, we're going to next schedule an API workflow. The API workflow is going to be the one we just created called create PDF. And you can see here we can pass through the PDF ID. Then if I go to insert dynamic data, we can go to the result of step 1 and its unique ID. So we're creating a report in step 1. We're taking its unique ID. We're sending it to our backend workflow. And we're going to schedule that immediately. You can, of course, schedule it for a later time if you want, but just for our intents and purposes, we want to trigger the PDF creation straight away. Back to our backend workflows. And once this is triggered, what we're going to do is we're going to trigger an action called create PDF. So this is a workflow action that comes with the DocuPotion plugin. There's a ton of stuff you can do to customize your PDF. I'll go through most of it in this video, but for now, there are really only 3 fields that we have to fill out to get up and running. The first 2 are really simple. It's under this page to PDF section. And what we want to put in here is a dynamic expression for the website home URL. So we go to insert dynamic data, search for website home URL. That's it. That's the job done. It's just telling DocuPotion where to look for the PDF. Page name, that's going to simply be equal to whatever page name you have for your report. So I'm going to put in property report. And then identifier. This is why we send through the unique ID from the front end, because we want to be able to later identify what report we're going to change. So I'm going to go to PDF ID, and that's it. And then file name, you can put in whatever you want. I'm going to leave it like that. And then finally, I said 4 because I wasn't counting this one. The really important one we need to put in here is the callback URL. So the way PDFPotion works is you let it know what page you want to create a PDF of. It does its thing, and then it sends the PDF back to your Bubble app. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a second API workflow. We're going to call this one Get PDF. I am going to tick the 2 of these boxes in this instance. And what this is going to do is we're going to have to add in 2 parameters here to let PDFPotion know which one to send where in your Bubble app. The first one is going to be ID. It's going to be of type text. And the second one is going to be link. This is going to be the URL that will link to the PDF that PDFPotion is going to send you. To be very clear, you must use these exact keys. You must type in ID exactly, and you must type in link exactly. Now that we have this Get PDF API workflow created, we're actually going to use this in the Create PDF callback URL. So we're down here, we're looking for a callback URL. This is quite simple to get. What I would recommend doing is going to the Settings tab of your Bubble editor, copying the Workflow API root URL here, going back to your backend, pasting it in there, and then at the very end of it, / and then whatever you've called this API workflow. So I'm just going to type in get PDF, and that's our callback URL. This is how PDFPotion knows where to send the link to the created PDF. Now, one thing to note here is that things can get a bit messy when you're typing in static URLs when you're talking about the dev and live versions of your Bubble app. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take everything before the / API, or before just API itself, I should say. I'm going to delete that, and then I'm going to insert dynamic data. And once again, I'm going to use our website home URL. This means Bubble will decide which version of your app to send it to, be it the live version or else the development version. So we're nearly there. We're nearly ready to create our first PDF, but we need to do one more thing, and that's on this Get PDF workflow, because at the moment, PDFPotion is going to send the created PDF to our Bubble database. But what we need to do is we need to actually link it to a specific report in our database. So you might remember on the front end, we created a brand new report when the user clicked the Create PDF button. We're now going to make changes to that report. And the way we can find out which report to make a change to is by going to do a search for report. We're going to find the very first report. So I'm going to click on the first item. But we're going to find the first report where its unique ID is equal to the ID that we've sent through to the backend. So what's happening is we're taking the unique ID associated with the report, we're adding it in here, we're letting PDFPotion know that that's the ID, and then PDFPotion knows which report to link it to in our database, and we can update it. So we're now ready to create our first PDF. So let's go back to our front end. Let's preview this. And you can see here when that button is clicked, we're creating a new report and we're scheduling that backend workflow. So let's click that, and nothing is going to happen here on screen because we have not done anything to trigger the download, but we can see this happen in our database. So if we go back to our database, look at app data and look at reports, you can see I've got a number of them already, but the latest one we created at 11:49. And what we should see is that a link is going to come through if we refresh our data. Doesn't seem to be happening just yet. Let's have a look at our file manager, and I can see that a new file has just been created. It's the my file PDF one. If we open it up, that's our report. You'll notice we actually have 5 pages here at the moment. That's because I set the height of the page to be a bit bigger. But if I go back to my database now, I'm hoping that that's been saved down. And it hasn't been saved down to the specific report. So we're running into an issue here where the report is being created, it is being sent to our Bubble database, but for whatever reason, we haven't actually linked it to the right report. So let's take a look. and see what I did wrong there. If we do get PDF, we need to make changes to report. And of course, the obvious thing I forgot to do was I forgot to add in link, and then we can say equals link. So let's try that one more time. Refresh our bubble app, create our PDF. Let's close down the old one. To go back to my database and look at app data, you can see now we've created another one. It does take a small bit of time to create PDFs because DocuPotion is doing quite a bit of work. I'll go through how you can use a loading screen to improve the UI for this in just a minute, but hopefully now if we click refresh data, we do indeed have this link. And if we copy this and paste it into our browser, we now get a link to our PDF. So this is a good start. Let's just go back to our checklist, and we've set the dimensions of the PDF page. We've created the cover page, created a PDF of the cover page, but we now want to download this PDF in our browser. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our index page, and we're going to figure out a way to download this in the user's browser. So what we're going to do is when we're creating our PDF, we're going to add a custom event in here. So I'm going to go to click here to add an event. I'm going to go to create a custom event. The event name is going to be called PDF created. And I'm going to add in a parameter. And the parameter is going to be called report. It's going to be of type report. And then what I'm going to do is once this custom event is triggered, we're going to go down to plugins and we're going to go to download PDF. And the link is going to be equal to report its link. So again, the link we're defining up here, we're downloading its link, and we can call it whatever we want. We can call it the same thing you called it when you initially uploaded it. I'm just going to call this property report May 24. So this is going to download the PDF, but we now need to figure out how to actually trigger this custom event. How do we know when the PDF has been updated in our database and is ready to download? Well, thankfully, there's a really nice action that Bubble have. And if you went into custom events, you can see here we have trigger a custom event when data changes. And in our case, what's going to happen is the data that's going to be changing is this link field here. Once DocuPotion does its thing, this link field is going to be going from blank to a URL. So what we can do is we can use this fact to trigger our custom event. Back in our workflow, we can say thing to watch is going to be step 1, the new report created. The new field to watch is going to be link. And then when that happens, we're going to trigger the PDF to be downloaded. Let's try it again. I'm going to click on create PDF. We're going to go through in a second how to add a loading screen. So something is kind of showing to the user while the PDF is being created. But you can see there, my report has been downloaded. And if I open it up, I have it there. Now, the other thing you could do is you could maybe once the report has been created, you could show a pop-up to user and they can access the link in that. I'll leave it up to you however you want to best display the PDF to your user. So lastly, maybe before we go to the next section, we're going to go and look at how you can add a loading screen, just because at the moment it's not the best user experience when they create a PDF and then nothing happens for just a second, and then a few seconds later we do get a download in our browser. So we just want to show something that shows DocuPotion is currently working and it is working on returning that PDF. But before I do that, what I want to do as well is just show you on the property report, the reason we're getting all these blank pages is just because I set the default height here to be 5,000. If I get rid of that, next time we're generating the PDF, we should really only get the cover page. But what I'm going to do for my loading screen is I'm going to get a floating group from here. I'm going to drag this over my page itself. I'm going to give it a column. I'm going to untick the fixed height and fixed width. And what I'm going to do is I've actually already created a version of this, so I can just show you here. It's going to be a gradient style. And let me just delete that one, given I've already created it. It's going to be a gradient, and we're going to use this color here where the starting color is 40% transparency, ending color 40%, and then kind of nothing in the middle. And if we actually just show what this looks like, you can see here we have a text element, and then we'll see I have this icon spinner, which you can get by just going down to icons and searching for the spinner one among all the icons there. So the idea is once the user clicks the create PDF button, we're going to show this floating group. It's going to cover the page. They won't be able to click on the button again. And then once the PDF has been downloaded, we're going to hide that loading screen. So back in our workflow with the create PDF button, before we even create the report in step 1, we're going to insert an action. And what we're going to do is we're going to show an element, and it's going to be the PDF loading screen element. And then once the PDF has been downloaded, what we can do is we can, just before that, in fact, not just before that, just after that, we're going to hide an element. And again, it's going to be the loading screen. So let's just see how this looks. So we'll create our PDF, and I didn't update, or Bubble didn't let me. So let's try it again. Create a PDF. We're triggering DocuPotion in the back end. It's going to go and do its work. And then once it's ready to download in our browser, we'll open it up, and you can see there this time we just have the one page and we have our image on that. One more thing to note at this point is the text elements in PDF generated by DocuPotion are searchable. So if I go to Control F and I want to search for property, you'll see it shows up there. Same with analysis. So that's just a nice feature as well. You can actually search the text elements that come with the PDFs. Okay, so now that we've created our cover page, let's see what's next on the list. We've added a loading screen. Okay, so adding user-specific data to the PDF. Let's say we want to generate this report for a specific real estate agent or some other user. And let's say we want to just have their name on the PDF itself. What we might do is we would, first of all, under our user data type, let's say we had an entry, and I'm just going to go back under data types. We're going to say name, which is just going to be a text field. And then in app data, I'll just create a user really quickly here. We'll just say their name is George Doe, and their email is georgedoe@realestate.com. And then let's say George himself is generating the PDF. So if we go to our property report, let's copy this, and then let's put in here, we're going to say created for current user's name. So the idea here is that if George's creating it, then it's going to be his name that shows up. And we're just going to put a spacing in between the various elements, maybe 24 pixels. And we'll make this a bit smaller as well. Let's go down to 24. And then let's go back to our index page, and we'll run as George. So let's just refresh that. So we'll run as George Doe. And just close these ones down, close that down. And let's create our PDF. And this isn't actually going to work. We're not going to get George's name and email on it, or name or email, I should have said. So you can see there, created for it is currently blank, which isn't ideal. And the reason is that we're not currently letting DocuPotion know that it's George that's running it. And what we can do to effectively run as a certain user, or kind of run from the perspective of a certain user, is we can feed DocuPotion a magic link. So what I'm going to do is, back in my workflow here, when create PDF is clicked, what I'm going to do is, before I create a report, I'm going to send a magic link. Now, these are usually used to reset passwords or something like that, but they can also be used in workflows for other purposes. And in this case, what we're going to do for email, we're just going to put in the current user's email. The body of email, not actually relevant, subject not relevant. And the reason they're not relevant is because I'm not going to send an email. I'm just going to create a link. Link expiration, I'm just going to put this as 1 hour. Navigate on login index, navigate on failure index. But that's really the key one here. You're just creating the link, you're not sending the email. And the reason is we're actually going to get the link that's created in step 2, and we're going to send it to our create PDF workflow. So if I go back to my backend, if I look at the create PDF API workflow, I'm going to add a new parameter here, and I'm going to call it magic link. It's going to be of type text. And then when we're creating the PDF under the magic login link here, I'm going to add in magic link. So then the last part of this process is just to send this magic link back to the backend. And you can see here Bubble's actually showing us an error because we haven't done that yet. So if we go here to magic link, what we're going to do is we're going to go to the result of step 2, which is where we're creating the magic link, and we're going to send it that way. And now hopefully when we create our PDF, we're going to have George's name appear on it. So if we go to create PDF, DocuPotion is going to do its thing and create the PDF for us, send it back to our Bubble database. And then once it's downloaded, we should see this time that is created for George Doe. So this is a really simple example of how you can include user-specific data on it, but it can also be very useful for like respecting privacy rules. And using the magic link is a good way of just ensuring that any data in the report respects the privacy rules that are applied to that user. So now that we've created user-specific data, adding page numbers to the PDF, yeah, that's kind of important if you're creating a long PDF in particular. And I was just looking at our kind of demo / inspiration report that we're kind of using as kind of a template. And I can see here there's kind of a comment from the author of the report, and then in the bottom right, they have the page number. And what we're going to do is we're going to do something a bit similar. So I'm going to go back to my property report page. I'm going to go to design. I'm going to grab another group. And I'm going to drop it, not here. I'm actually going to go back to my property report and just give myself a bit of extra space. I'm going to put up to 5,000 again for now. I can change it back. And then group B is going to be just outside of this. Yeah, and it's going to be group introduction page. Again, we're going to give it a fixed width of 794 pixels. We're going to let it take up a fixed height of 1122 pixels. And we're going to give it a white background. So we'll just hatch that. Background style is just going to be flat. And again, we're going to put in our padding, much like we did in the first page. I'm just trying to remember what padding we gave the cover page, 48 pixels on either side. Let's do that again. And then let's put in a text element, just saying welcome to our report. Give this a heading 4. And then let's just put in some placeholder text. In fact, we don't need to do that. We can just copy this element, paste it down. I will put a gap in between them again of, let's say, 48 pixels. And I'm just going to get some placeholder text here. So we'll just copy this, go back to our text element here, paste that in, maybe do it 2 times because we're going to make it a lot smaller. Just going to make body large. And in fact, we'll do it a couple more times just to take up a bit more space. Okay, happy enough with that. So what we can do now is if we create our PDF, we should get 2 pages this time. And we haven't added in our page number just yet. Just give you a sense of how it's going to look. Of course, because I didn't reduce the min height, we're actually going to get the 5 pages again. But let's just take a look for George Doe. Yeah, okay. So if we want to add in a page number, before we do that, let's just add in a really basic footer. So what I'm going to do is under create PDF here, if you scroll down, there is an area for footer. There's also an area for header, which I'm not going to go through here, but it actually works in exactly the same way. And what I'm going to do is for the left footer content, or for the right footer content, I'm just going to type in Cranford Tech for now. Okay, so let's create that PDF when we've added CRAN Protect to the footer. It's actually not going to work this time, but I think it's just useful to show why it's not working this particular time. So DocuPotion created a report and nothing down here and nothing down here. And the reason for that is it's because the white background on the page and on the group are covering it up. But if we go back to our property report, and first of all, if we click on the page and we set the background style to none, and then if we go to that specific introduction page and again set the background style to none, this time if we create it, we're still going to get a white PDF, but we'll just be able to see our footer in the generated PDF. So we'll create it one more time for now, and then we'll move on to showing page numbers and how you can get them. Click on that and we can see this time we have a really small CRAN for Tech on the bottom right. And what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to increase the size of that a bit. So if I go to my backend workflows, under Create PDF, you'll see here that there's a number of options for formatting the footer content. I'm going to change the font size to 14. I'm going to leave the side margin to, I'll actually change it to 48 just so it matches the rest of the content on the page. And then finally, instead of having CRAN for Tech in the footer, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to type in page counter. And you can see here from this little description that that's a kind of special command and it's going to add a page counter to each of the pages. And let's just see how that looks. It calculates all the pages. And then, puts the appropriate page number on those pages. Generated our report. And this time we'll see here we have page 2, we have page 3, we have page 4, and so on. You will note it's not visible on the very first page, again, because our image is covering it up. The other thing you can do is you can add margins to try and give space to the footer to show up, but you'll see there's other methods in the documentation that come with DocuPotion. Let's move on to adding repeating group data to our PDF. I noticed when I was looking at our report that we're using for kind of information, there's a section at the end where it goes through the kind of prices in the various different regions of Ireland, so Leinster and Munster. So what I was thinking we could do is we could create, a section in our real estate agent report that shows the average price in 3 or 4 different regions. So what I was thinking of doing was, if we go back to our database, I was going to go and create a new data type and call it region subreport. And then that will have the name of a region, and we'll call it type text. And then we'll also put in some description, which can just be some placeholder text. So we'll keep it pretty simple for now. And then let's go and add that to our PDF. So if we go to property report and we scroll down, we're not going to do exactly as we have done in the past, because previously we would have added a page, added a fixed height to it, but in this case we're actually going to add a repeating group. So I'm going to go and search for my repeating group and then put that in here. And the type of content on this, I'm going to start off by just making this the region subreport, and we're simply going to go and do a search for all the subreports, but we will make it a bit more consistent later on and actually link it to a report on this page. We're not going to set a fixed number of rows. We will leave it at 1 column. And then for the min height of the row, we'll just set it to 150 for now. And I can see that that has gone up to the top. We're just going to put it down here at the bottom. And then I am going to make sure that the width is going to be fixed. And we're going to make it at 794 again. And then what I am going to do is I'm going to add a group within each of these reading group cells to house the content. So what I'll do is I'll go over to my assets, search for a group, then add that. And we're going to call this group, or G for repeating group, container. This will have a fixed width. And again, we'll go with our 794. So it takes up the full width. And I'm going to untick fit height to content. I will just make the repeating group cell bit bigger so we have a bit more room to play around with. And then we'll call this type of content to be equal to region subreport, and it's going to be current cells region subreport. So let's go create some of that subreports in our database. So we're going to create a new entry. I'm going to call this region, we'll just call it north, and we'll get some placeholder text again, and we'll put that in here. So we'll paste that twice. And then we're just going to do the same thing for south, east, and west. So we'll do south. This is obviously quite a basic example of a report like this, but you could make it as complex or otherwise as you wish. West. And then finally, east. Okay, and let's add some of this dynamic data to our repeating group. So back here, grab a text element, and I might actually just grab one of the other text elements I've already put in just to keep the formatting consistent. I should have put some padding on this group here as well on the container. So I'll do that now, just put 48 pixels once again on every side of it. We'll paste our text element in here. And we're going to call this the current cells. In fact, we'll call it the parent group's regions subreport, the region itself. And then we'll copy this, paste it down, put a bit of a gap in between. And we'll call this parent group's region subregion description. And we'll make that a bit smaller. We'll make that body large again, I think. It's probably going to look a bit empty now, so I might add in a chart just in a minute to make things a bit more interesting. So let's see, we have this, and then we've a few problems here actually. So we have our content coming through. We have these separators, which I don't like. We have this scroll bar, which I definitely don't like, and we obviously have the overlapping content, which is not good. But I think this is an issue with just my formatting here. So let's get rid of those separators first of all. Attach that. And then we're also going to get rid of the borders. And then under layout, if we untick that, I think that will look a lot better. And then that looks a bit better already. So let's take a look at that. And then we do have a lot of space here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We don't need to take up the full height of it. So let's undo that. And then if we go down, I wonder, is it a lot closer together? It is, which again, probably isn't what we want. So select first parent of the text element, which is the group. I should have set a higher min height on this, of course. So let's set that to 250. And let's set the repeating group, fit height to content. And finally, that looks a bit better now. We kind of have all four following after each other, but it's not taking up unnecessary space. And again, still not perfect, actually. Let's take a look at why that's happening. Fit height to content. Yeah, okay. So now we have our 4 repeating group items coming after one another. I would actually like to add in a chart here just to give it a bit more. So I'm going to install a charts plugin really quickly. The one I like to use is this one here. So we'll confirm subscribing to that. And then we're not going to go through putting in custom data, but I will just add in a quick bar chart here in each of the groups. And we'll say fixed width of 400 and then fixed height of 300. And we'll just stick with, I think, the data that they provide with it. So let's take a look at that. Yep, and that can be all right. So these could represent some stats on each of the regions. So let's just create a PDF of that and see how it looks. And then after we've done this, we can work on splitting the repeating groups out on the separate pages. That's a real nice feature of DocuPotion, that you can tell it to start each of the cells on the repeating group on a new page. But let's just see how our report looks with all of that information. Okay, so we've downloaded that. Open it up. We can see here we have our introduction page, our cover page, the north, south, and this is where the page breaks come into it, west and east. So this isn't ideal at the moment. I would actually like each of the repeating group cells to start on the new page. So rather than have south here, I'd rather have south on the next page. And we can do that. And the way we can do that is if we go to our editor and we find the repeating group, we're going to add an ID attribute to it. And before you do that, you're going to need to go to settings, general, and then the very end here, you'll see there's an option, expose the option to add an ID attribute to HTML elements. You need to ensure that's ticked, otherwise you won't have the option to add an ID attribute. But I'm just going to give this repeating group the ID attribute rg break 1. I'm going to copy that, and then back in my create PDF action in my backend workflow, you'll see down here down towards the end, there's this option for repeating group page break options. And if you specify the ID attribute of a particular repeating group, DocuPotion will ensure that all the cells of that repeating group get broken onto new pages. So let's try that out again. We'll need to go to our index page actually. So I think that's back here, refresh, and create a PDF. So this is what we had beforehand with these breaks across different pages. But hopefully on the new one now, we're going to see that each of the repeating group cells is going to start on a new page. And there's our report. So let's take a look at it. And straight away, I can see there's 6 pages rather than 5. So I suspect that has worked. This is our first page, the north, second south, third west, and fourth east. So that's how you can ensure that cells of repeating groups start on new pages. Now this is a very naive repeating group in a way because we're literally just doing a search for all of the sub-region reports. And it's rarely that simple when you're building a bubble app. So let's assume that there is a specific report that the user wants to create and that it needs to be linked to these 4 sub-reports. So what I'm going to do is just when I'm creating the report in step 1, and your own workflow will probably be a bit different, but this is just for demonstration purposes. When button create PDF is clicked, we're creating a report. And I now want to attach all of those sub-region reports onto this master report. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say under data types, I'm going to go to report, and I'm going to say sub-region or report sub-regions. And the field type here is going to be region sub-report, and it's going to be a list. So we're going to have a few of them on it. And let's say every time we create a new PDF, we are going to add a list of sub-region reports to it. So we're going to go to set list, and we're simply going to go to do a search for all sub-reports. So there's only 4 in my database. So again, this is probably a bit of a naive way of doing it as well, but you'll see at least that each of the 4 sub-region reports will be attached to the master report. And then what I'm going to do is on the property report page, I'm going to set the type of content on this page to be equal to report. And then I'm going to set the data in the repeating group to be equal to the current page's report. Report subregions. So we're getting all 4 of the reports of the subregions, attaching it to the main report. What that means is if we refresh our page at the moment, this isn't actually going to show up. So you can see there's no repeating group content showing up because we haven't specified a report for this page. So what we need to do is, and just kind of demonstrate again, if I go back to my home page, create a new button, and just say go to page report, and we're going to say we're going to go to a page. The page is going to be property report. The data we're sending is going to be another report I will create. So results of step 1. So we're creating a report and then sending that data to the page. We basically need to figure out a way to let DocuPotion know that this is the key bit information here, this unique ID. Because if we scroll down, you'll see here we now have the 4 different cells of repeating group because we have put a type of report on it. And if we look in our database, we'll see under reports that that report we just created has all those subregions. And it's actually quite simple. The key is really to just get this unique ID in the URL that we are sending to DocuPotion. And what we can do is when we're creating a report, we can add another parameter to our API workflow here. So if I go to my backend workflow and I create PDF action, I'm going to add another parameter here, and I'm going to call this one report. It's going to be a text element. And then when I'm creating my PDF, what I'm going to do is, instead of just sending them to property report, I'm also going to send them to property report and then report again. So I'm going to try and get the unique ID of the report, put at the end of the page name, and then DocuPotion will automatically load that data up. And again, the way we could do that is if we go to index, create PDF, and we're scheduling the API workflow, we're simply going to add in the result of step 3, its unique ID. Now, the reality is we've actually already saved that down under PDF ID, so you could just take the PDF ID and send it through, but again, just for demonstration purposes, that's how you might get the unique ID relevant for a data type. So let's see how that looks now. If we refresh our Bubble application, and if we create a PDF, we should see now that we're going to get our repeating group data back in here, which we do, whereas if we didn't have that report at the end of our page name, we would not have it in. Just to show you, compare and contrast, create PDF. This one is not going to have the repeating group data because we're not specifying the data type on the page itself, but let's just confirm that. Open it up, and you can see here, yeah, this is only 3 pages long and none of the repeating group data. So that's how you get repeating group data in a PDF and how you can search for specific data types using the page URL. The last thing we're going to deal with is just how you deal with data that is being split over a number of different pages. And I think maybe our introduction page here would be a good example because you can see there's some text at the moment, but it's not quite splitting onto the second page. But what I'm going to do is just under property report, I'm going to make this a lot longer. So I'm going to copy all this. I'm going to paste it down. I'm going to paste it down again. And the first thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to untick the fixed height that's on this page because we're now going on to multiple pages and just having one page isn't going to be enough. So I'm going to untick that. That means our content will go on to the next page. And I also actually need to take fit height to content. And also what I'll do is I will just go back to my backend workflow. And when I'm creating that PDF, I'm just going to add back in the report. So then let's recreate that PDF one more time. So we'll click on create PDF. And this time I'm expecting the introduction page to overflow onto more than one page. And we'll see the effect of that in the PDF itself. And let's open that up. Okay, so we have our introduction page, which you can see is now going on to a second page. So the first problem we have to deal with here is our margins at the bottom are 0. You know, the spacing isn't getting applied because it's going on to multiple pages. So we now have this text that's very near the bottom of the first page and the top of the second, which I don't quite like. And then the second issue is not necessarily an issue here actually, but I probably should demonstrate it because I've told DocuPotion that we want the repeating group to start on a new page, but what if there was a different element here? So for example, what if we had under property report another cover page? So with group cover page, copy that, paste it in there, and let's put that up there. So let's just see how that looks. Create that PDF. What I'm expecting to happen is basically for the second cover page that I've just added to appear on the same page as the text element, which isn't obviously what we want. If you have an image covering the full page, you don't want half of it on one page and half of it on the other. So we have our cover page, which is fine. Introduction page starts off fine, but I don't like this part here. And I really don't like this part here because this looks a bit silly, the fact that the image page is split over 2 pages. So let's solve both of these issues. And let's start off with the text being split here. What we can do to get around this is we can add a margin to our pages. And the way we can do that is if we go to our backend workflows and click on create PDF, you'll see here we have a field called top bottom margin. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in 50 here. Now, it's important to note that 50 means that 50 pixels will be added to the top and 50 pixels will be added to the bottom, which means that we need to reduce the height of some of our pages. Otherwise, they'll be overlapping onto two pages. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to property report. On the very first page here, I'm going to reduce the height of this from 1122 to 1022, so taking 100 pixels off it. And I'm going to do the same for every other page. I'm going to set the min height here to be 1022. I could get rid of the spacing up here now that I know margins are coming in, but I'm not going to do that now in the interest of time. Also do this 1022. And we'll leave the repeating group because it's automatically put on a new page regardless. So let's refresh our app, create our PDF, and I'm hoping now that split text that we saw on the second page of the introduction section of our report is no longer going to be there. Okay, open it up. And this is another issue which I'll explain how to fix in a minute, but now that we've added margins, it's appearing on every page. We're not specifically putting it on the target page, we're putting it on every page. So we now have these gaps on this page. The upside is we do have our spacing here. So this is a positive, but this is obviously a big negative as well. So what we can do to avoid this issue, first of all, is we can use a special command that comes with DocuPotion. And this special command basically allows you to remove margins from any one given page. And the way you do it is you basically add an ID attribute to an element on the target page. So in my case, I do not want a margin to be added to this first cover page. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find this text element. And I'm simply going to add to the text element here. It could be any text element on the page. I'm simply going to type in remove margin. And then if we refresh and create our PDF, this time DocuPotion is going to add margins to all of the pages in the report, except for the very first one, because we've given it that special instruction. And let's open it up. And you can see here, no margins on the first page. We do have a bit on the bottom, which is obviously not what we want. And the reason is we haven't set this height back to 1023. So let's do that. We can go here and we can say, I'm sorry, I should have said 1122, which is the correct height. Refresh, create PDF again. And this time we should have a nicely formatted cover page. And you can see here, cover page is taking up the full height of the very first page, which is good. We have our nice page break on the second page and third page, which is a positive. So our last issue really is this page here. We're getting this split over an additional page. Repeating group isn't an issue because we've already told DocuPotion that each of the cells should start on a new page. So really it's only this second cover page that's the issue. And it's pretty easily fixed. We're going to do exactly what we did for the first cover page, which is add that special instruction to a text element, but we're also going to add a page break. And the way we can add a page break is if we go to the second cover page, which is down here, we'll call it cover page 2. We're going to add an ID attribute to the group itself, and we're simply going to call it break 1. I'm then going to copy that. I'm going to go back to my backend workflow, create PDF, and down towards the end again, you'll see here we have this option to add page breaks to specific elements. So I'm adding it to break 1, but you can have multiple page breaks throughout a PDF. If you wanted to add another one, you just put in comma and then maybe type in break 2 or whatever else ID attribute you want to give. But that'll add page breaks to those specific elements. So we're nearly there, but before I generate what I'm hoping is the perfect PDF, we also want to add that special instruction to the second cover page. So if I go back to design, and we get into cover page 2, which is this one here, we're once again going to pick a text element on the page and type in remove margin. Just a warning, you can't put this remove margin instruction on the group itself that contains the page. You have to put it on a specific element within the group. But I think we should be good to try and generate that PDF again. So let's try it out. Click create PDF. DocuPotion will take all those instructions, create the PDF, and then send it back to our Bubble app. And let's open it up. And we have our cover page, which is fine. We have our introduction page, which is looking good. And then you can see here now the cover page is breaking on to a new page because of that page break. And because of the special instruction, it should be taking up the full height, but we did forget one thing, which is my fault, which is to increase the height by 100 pixels. You might remember we did that for the very first one. And then we have our repeating group cells there as well. So I'm going to leave the video there. I hope that's been useful in understanding how you can create really detailed PDF reports with DocuPotion and how much control you have over things like page breaks, over the layout of your PDF, over footers and all that. If you have any questions, you can let me know in the comments.